So today, the UK's largest mobile network operator, Everything Everywhere, is starting a campaign to get Britain's mobile internet up to speed. Well, many next-generation mobile devices are built to access ultra-fast 4G broadband, but there is still no coverage here in the UK. Everything Everywhere says that bringing 4G to Britain would create 125,000 jobs, inject £5.5 billion of direct investment into the UK economy, and boost GDP by 0.5%. Well, Everything Everywhere plans to launch 4G on its existing wireless frequency, and that means that it can bypass the bidding process for additional bandwidth and beat competitors to providing ultra-fast broadband. Well, Olaf Swantee is the CEO of the company, joins me in the studio now. And so, I mean, just looking at some of the figures there, what this could mean, the rolling out of 4G technology in terms of creating jobs and direct investment into the UK economy, how much of a shot in the arm could it provide the country at a time where I suppose it desperately needs it?
Well, first of all, 4G is providing a faster, more reliable mobile internet connection. And to do that, it requires upgrading the existing networks. And Capital Economics, the independent research company, has published their reports. It will require $5.5 billion. We're investing about $1.5 billion of that. And that will create the jobs, 125,000, is coming mainly from the rollout and the upgrading of the existing networks.
But I suppose the problem for you right now is that there have been delays in the process. Your competitors are saying that this would give you an unfair advantage, essentially the ability to roll out 4G before anyone else.
Well, the industry has been debating how to distribute airwaves for the last 5 years. Britain is behind. 34 countries have already launched. So my demand is that the regulator and the industry work together to bring 4G to this market.
But at the same time, do you acknowledge that it would be very much in the interests of your company to get 4G out that much more quickly if you were to be granted permission to deploy this sort of technology a little bit earlier on?
Well, we have 27.5 million customers. We are the #1 in this market. I want to make sure that we innovate and that we bring 4G to these customers as quickly as possible. The network is my product.
Does it give you perhaps an unfair head start, though, when it comes to your rival operators? This is the thing that they're not very happy about.
Well, experts have said that our competitors can also use their existing airwaves. The challenge is it requires a lot of investments. My shareholders have approved an investment of £1.5 billion, so I can go ahead and move and get 4G in this country.
What concessions can you grant the regulator in order to get this permission?
Well, we have asked the regulator to liberalize our existing airwaves so that we can use those. That is really the only thing we need before the summer, and then we can roll out before the end of this year.
Is there any room to increase the £1.5 billion of investment that you've already announced?
Well, the £1.5 billion is only in the rollout of the technology. Then beyond that, so that's over 3 years, after that, we will need to sustain a high-level investment, typically 9% of revenue, to make sure that our network can cope with the data growth moving forward. And
do you think you're going to be able to resolve these issues or problems that you've been having with some of your rivals without this whole process being, I don't want to use the word sabotage, but essentially bogged down in litigation? Because there have been threats of legal action. It doesn't look as though the telecoms regulator in this country, Ofcom, is going to be able to resolve this without going to court. Does that bother you?
Well, I think this industry has used legal resources for too long. I think we need to get moving, and we need to get Britain the network it deserves.
But okay, so I mean, do you accept, though, that there are concerns amongst the network's leading operators? Specifically, I know that you say that you already own some of the bandwidth on this spectrum, but I mean, essentially, how difficult is it going to be to resolve this issue? Because again, we come back to the same point that it gives you an unfair advantage over rival operators. I have to
sell part of my spectrum to provide a competitor with the same airwaves that I have, so to create a competition for 4G. Secondly, there will be MVNO partners, and I've read just this morning that there is a company that has launched 4G already in part of the country using a different spectrum. I think the industry has to invest, innovate, and bring 4G to the market and stop debating about airwaves and distributing that among the players.
Comparing the UK to some of its competitors, you have already seen the rollout of 4G in Scandinavia, in Germany and the US. So if this process continues to meet with the delays that we've already seen, and it does look likely, what could that mean for that gap to continue widening between the UK and other countries?
Well, there's two real issues. The first is that when you look at the rollout of 4G in Scandinavia and Germany in particular, it has offered a solution to rural areas to provide broadband. So that's the first thing. And in the UK, there are a lot of households today that do not have an acceptable broadband speed. The second thing is that because the Britons love their smartphones, the growth in data is phenomenal in our networks. We have 250% growth in data every year. So our current networks without 4G will not be able to cope with that growth in the future.
So are you absolutely confident that we're going to see the rollout of this technology before the end of this year, or realistically are we looking at delays that could, well, set us back years potentially in the rollout of 4G technology?
I'm confident, and I believe that there is an increasing awareness about 4G, about the importance of 4G, and I think the industry is waking up to the fact that we need to invest and move forward.
Will Ofcom have to go to court to resolve the problems with some of your rival operators?
I hope not.
And if they do, it means further delays, right?
It means further delays.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed. Really interesting to get your perspective, your insight into this issue. Olaf Swantee, CEO of Everything Everywhere.